Now, the 12 tribes of Israel had become divided into two different nations. One called the house of Israel, the other the house of Judah, or kingdom of Israel and kingdom of Judah. The kingdom of Israel had the birthright promise. In other words, God had promised Abraham that his descendants would become the greatest nations on the face of the earth. Not just one nation, but Ephraim, who was given the birthright, was to become a great commonwealth of nations, the greatest of the kind that the world had ever known. And then Manasseh finally to split off from Ephraim, and Manasseh was to become the greatest, most powerful single nation on the face of the earth. Now, God promised that to Abraham unconditionally, because, as you read in the 26th chapter of Genesis, because that Abraham had obeyed God's voice, kept his charge, his commandments, his statutes, and his laws. God also promised a kingly line and a Messiah. That promise, called the Sceptre, went to Judah and was descended down through the tribe of Judah. Now, David was of the line of Judah, and God had promised David that his kingly line, his dynasty, would never cease. From that time on through all generations, David would have one of his own flesh and blood descendants sitting on the throne, and Christ was to come of that line. And ultimately, Christ is to take over that throne and rule forever, so that David's dynasty remains solid forever and ever. Now here it is, and I say to you that Israel was divided into two different nations, Israel and Judah. And Israel had the birthright promises of national greatness, and national power, and national wealth. And to Judah went the scepter promise, of whom Christ was to come, and Christ came of Judah.
So understand, the birthright promise did not pass on to the Jews, but the scepter, the promise of Christ and of grace, was passed on to the Jews. Salvation, Jesus said, is of the Jews. The gospel of Christ, wrote Paul, is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. The promises of grace were handed down through Judah. This promise never has been fulfilled in the Jews. It cannot be spiritualized away by interpreting it as being inherited only through Christ. It could not pertain to the church, for there is but one true church acknowledged in the Bible, and it is not a nation or a group of nations, but one church of called-out individuals scattered through all nations. Yet this amazing promise must stand fulfilled, unless we are to deny the Bible and God's sacred word. Subscribe to this channel for upcoming Herbert W. Armstrong content.